Smoke stung my eyes as flames devoured our home, my heart pounding with terror. My daughter, Lily, wheelchair-bound since her accident, was trapped upstairs. Just hours earlier, Margaret Hensley, the tyrannical HOA president, had stood on my porch, her voice dripping with venom. "Remove that ugly ramp or pay the price," she'd snarled. Now, as the fire roared, I realized she'd made good on her threat, oblivious to the fact that I, Thomas Reed, was once a federal judge. That morning began with Margaret's pounding on my door, her designer suit pristine, a stack of papers in hand. "Mr. Reed, that ramp, those wide doors, the elevator theory an eyesore," she spat, glaring at Lily's wheelchair in the hallway. "You've got 1 week to tear them down." I kept my voice steady, though rage simmered inside. "These are protected by law, Margaret." Her face twisted. "Laws don't matter here. This is my neighborhood, and I set the rules." She jabbed at her papers. "You owe $5,000 in fines already. Fix this, or it gets worse." Lily wheeled up, her eyes wide. "Dad, what's wrong?" Margaret recoiled, sneering. "Maybe you belong somewhere more suitable for people like her." I stepped in front of Lily. "Leave. Now." Margaret smirked as she strutted away. "This isn't over." It wasn't. Our mailbox was smashed. Anonymous notes appeared. "Cripples not welcome." The HOA slapped us with daily fines for fabricated violations. At the next HOA meeting, I arrived with proof that our modifications complied with federal law. Margaret scoffed to the crowd. "Mr. Reed thinks he's above our rules." I shot back. "I understand the law better than you ever will." Her face reddened. "Your daughter's condition is tragic, but it's not our burden. That ramp is hideous, and seeing her every day disturbs people." The room fell silent. Even her allies looked uneasy. I stood taller. "This meeting is over. Harass us again, and I'll sue." That night, my security camera caught Margaret and 2 accomplices vandalizing the garden beds I'd built for Lily's therapy. When I confronted her, she laughed. "Sue me? My brother-in-law's the DA. You'll get nowhere." I began documenting every incident, preparing a lawsuit. 3 days later, as Lily and I watched TV, acrid smoke filled the room. The fire started at the back, near the wheelchair lift where Margaret had been spotted on camera an hour earlier. I scooped Lily up, but the smoke was suffocating. Her breathing grew ragged in my arms. Our neighbor, Mr. Callahan, smashed through the door with a fire extinguisher, guiding us out as flames consumed everything. From the ambulance, watching firefighters battle the inferno, I made a call I'd hoped to avoid. "Judge Harper, it's Thomas Reed. I need your help." The investigation moved swiftly. Fire experts found gasoline on the deck by Lily's lift. My security footage showed Margaret with a gas can minutes before the blaze. Police arrested her as she stammered, "I just wanted to ruin that ugly equipment." How was I supposed to know the house would burn? The officer cuffed her. "You're under arrest for arson and attempted murder." News of her arrest rocked the neighborhood. Neighbors who'd stayed silent or backed Margaret now brought us food, clothes, and offers of shelter while our home was rebuilt. Margaret's brother-in-law, the DA, recused himself. The new prosecutor called me. "Judge Reed, I didn't realize you were the victim. I was in your courtroom years ago." He was resolute. "We're charging her with attempted murder and hate crimes for targeting Lily's disability. The evidence is ironclad." At Margaret's hearing, I wore my old suit, standing not as a judge, but as a father. The presiding judge's eyes widened when he recognized me. "Your Honor," I said, voice steady, "the defendant didn't just attack my home. She tried to kill my daughter because she thought our accessibility features lowered her property values." Lily's doctor testified about the smoke damage to her lungs, requiring 3 days in the hospital. A fire expert confirmed the blaze was deliberate. Margaret's own texts to HOA members sealed her fate. "Once they're gone, our neighborhood will be normal again." Bail was denied. The HOA ousted its leaders and issued a public apology. The community rallied. They raised $200,000 for Lily's medical bills and to rebuild our home with wider hallways, an indoor elevator, and a therapy pool. The contractor, whose nephew shared Lily's condition, worked at a discount. Margaret took a plea deal, 15 years for arson, attempted murder, and hate crimes. Her husband divorced her, and her assets funded a trust for Lily's care. At her sentencing, I brought Lily, now 16, who insisted on facing the woman who tried to destroy us. Her voice, still hoarse from smoke, rang clear. "Your Honor, I forgive Ms. Hensley, but she needs to understand. Every person's worth isn't tied to their house or how they move. I hope she learns that in prison." The judge stared at Margaret. You torched a federal judge's home and nearly killed his disabled daughter over property values. Ironically, you've ruined your own life far more than any ramp ever could. 6 months later, our rebuilt home stood as a beacon of inclusion. The neighborhood adopted rules protecting accessibility and banning discrimination. Lily's garden, once destroyed, was replanted and expanded by neighbors who'd once ignored our plight. Mr. Callahan, our rescuer, visited daily to tend it. A young family with a son in a wheelchair moved in across the street. Their agent called our area the state's most accessible community. As Lily welcomed them, I saw justice in a way my years on the bench never delivered. Lily spoke at her school, sparking a nationwide Accessible for All campaign. At the fire's one-year anniversary, the neighborhood held a unity celebration. A reporter asked Lily how she felt living here now. She paused, then said, "Sometimes awful things lead to beautiful change." Ms. Hensley tried to erase us with hate, but instead, she made our community better. That's the ultimate justice. My daughter taught me mercy where I'd once wielded justice. When she asked if I regretted hiding my judicial past, I shook my head. I wanted us accepted for who we are, not what I was. And we are. A letter from the prison chaplain arrived. Margaret, in a restorative justice program, sought a meeting, claiming remorse. Lily, wise beyond her years, agreed. Everyone deserves a chance to change, Dad. Even her. Next week, we'll visit not for vengeance, but to show that goodness triumphed despite her malice. As a judge, I sentenced many to prison. As a father, I've learned the truest judgments come through forgiveness. Lily's lungs still heal, but our community, once a place of fear, now shines as a haven for families like ours. Margaret's hatred, meant to drive us out, forged a stronger, kinder neighborhood, one where differences aren't just accepted, but celebrated. Smoke stung my eyes as flames devoured our home, my heart pounding with terror. My daughter, Lily, wheelchair-bound since her accident, was trapped upstairs. Just hours earlier, Margaret Hensley, the tyrannical HOA president, had stood on my porch, her voice dripping with venom. "Remove that ugly ramp or pay the price," she'd snarled. Now, as the fire roared, I realized she'd made good on her threat, oblivious to the fact that I, Thomas Reed, was once a federal judge. That morning began with Margaret's pounding on my door, her designer suit pristine, a stack of papers in hand. "Mr. Reed, that ramp, those wide doors, the elevator theory an eyesore," she spat, glaring at Lily's wheelchair in the hallway. "You've got 1 week to tear them down." I kept my voice steady, though rage simmered inside. "These are protected by law, Margaret." Her face twisted. "Laws don't matter here. This is my neighborhood, and I set the rules." She jabbed at her papers. "You owe $5,000 in fines already. Fix this, or it gets worse." Lily wheeled up, her eyes wide. "Dad, what's wrong?" Margaret recoiled, sneering. "Maybe you belong somewhere more